Business Spotlight, brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.
I'm Sonia Farrell and welcome to Business Spotlight in partnership with Baba Baboon and Cross Rhythms City Radio. Joining me in the studio this week, we've got the fabulous Jude Jennison, who's the founder of Leaders by Nature. Hi Jude, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Sonia.
Good. Thank you for joining me in the studio. Now, Leaders by Nature. I need to explain before we go any further, what exactly does this mean and how does it work?
So Leaders by Nature is a leadership and team development company. So that sounds fairly straightforward so far. But I work with a herd of horses to explore non-verbal behaviour and communication in business leaders.
Mm-hmm. So if you're using, I can imagine, business leaders as well, are they used to it? Those who come to you for the first time, would they be quite sceptical of using this sort of non-verbal sort of process, so to speak?
They're very sceptical. So I would say probably about a third of people that walk through my gate are really sceptical and don't want to be there because they don't see the point. Probably about a third are really excited because it sounds a bit funky and a bit new. And then the other third are somewhere in the middle where they want to embrace the change and try something new, but they're actually a bit scared. And I think that's reflective of how people embrace change in business as well. So it's a really great place to explore. How do you respond to change?
Yeah. And by using horses as well, how does that kind of work? How does that bring out, that change within people or even a confidence building perhaps?
Yeah, so I always use the terminology working with because I see myself working in partnership with them. And horses, because they're a prey animal, they've evolved over millions of years to be really sensitive to what's going on in their environment. They work as a herd, so they work as a team. So they see their safety as being in a team. So what they're looking for is it safe to be around you? So when you join their herd effectively, as soon as you walk through the gate, they're questioning, am I safe with you around me? And if I am, then I'll engage with you. And if I don't feel safe, then I won't. Right. And so instantly what you get is feedback from the horses by how they respond to you. So give you a couple of examples would be if a team are really stressed when they walk through the gate, then the horses will usually move away to the furthest end of the field. Or they might take off at a gallop and gallop up and down if there's really high levels of anxiety and stress. But that's effectively feedback the moment you walk through the gate.
So just personally then, I'm just going to add in this here. Now, I've worked sort of in horse racing on a different side of it, obviously, to what you do. And I've actually been on a few horses, but not thoroughbreds, not proper race horses or anything. But I'm really nervous because I got chucked off a horse when I was 16. And ever since, I've been quite nervous about, I love them. I love being around them, but been quite nervous about even getting on another horse again. If I was to walk in and, the horses could sense my nerves, what would then be with the reaction? Would they then sort of walk back? And how would we get over that?
So it depends on the horse, because the horses that I work with have been working with me for a period of time, and they get used to the fact that everybody that walks through the gate isn't a horse person, and therefore probably most people are anxious, because even the people who are used to horses have never led a horse in front of their team while their team are watching about their leadership skills. So everybody is out of their comfort zone. And so the horses are used to a certain level of stress and anxiety. My job is to help you get grounded, get calm, and to help you feel safe in the same way as horses need to feel safe. Actually, we also need to feel safe. And if you think about when we're at work, we all get scared in different situations. So it's a really great place to start exploring what happens when I'm out of my comfort zone and I'm a bit scared. How do I ground myself and lead confidently through it? And so my job is to help you get to that place where you can engage with the horse, and so that the horse feels safe and you feel safe to have a relationship together. And that can happen in seconds and minutes.
Oh wow, really? That quick? So what kind of or what would be one of the best sort of success stories, so to speak, you've had, whether it's with an individual or it's been with a team coming in to see the horses?
Oh gosh, I've got thousands. I mean, I've worked with over 5,500 people in the last 15 years, so I've got many. I think one standout is a team who came from a large division of a large organisation, a recruitment agency, and they were running at an operating loss, and they did one day with me to align the team to communicate more effectively, and 3 months later they turned that loss-making division into a profit. And they all said when I did the feedback with them, it sounds crazy, but we never would have made a profit if we hadn't worked with the horses. And even as I say that, it sounds crazy, but that's the kind of success story. Those are some of the business things. And then individually, people get really deep insights into how they show up. Sometimes they're aware of it. So I had somebody who has shared her story openly, so I know she won't mind me sharing it, but she had an abusive ex-husband who was pushing her around, and one of the horses went straight up to her and he put his foot on the top of hers. He didn't put any pressure on it, but he deliberately put his foot on top of hers and flatly refused to move his foot until she was clear about where her boundaries were. And in the process of learning that, she started to realise that she could hold her boundaries with her abusive ex-husband, because they still had a relationship because of the children, and was able to do that without pushing or shoving and without being angry with him, but actually being really clear about what was acceptable and what wasn't.
Wow, that's something else. It's actually left me a little bit speechless, that one. I could actually visualise it as well. You know, it's quite strong, emotional, that one, I would say, actually.
And many of the stories are like that, because I think often what happens is the horses engage with, because they're engaging with us non-verbally, the things that people think they're hiding at work and they're hiding from everybody else, they're thinking it and they're feeling it. And the horses are connecting with what you're thinking and feeling rather than what you're actually outwardly presenting. And so the insights are incredible.
And do you get, you're based locally to Staffordshire.
Yes.
Do you get people coming to see you from all over the UK, or do you get a lot of people from the local area as well?
Most of my clients, so I moved to Staffordshire 18 months ago from Warwickshire. Many of my clients are either Birmingham based or London based, and most of them are national companies. And so the beauty of both Warwickshire and Staffordshire is they're fairly central. They're easy for teams to come from all over the UK. So I've got clients in Bournemouth. I've had clients from Manchester. I've even had clients fly in from Germany, because half the team was in Germany and half the team was in Gloucestershire.
Wow. And where would people find you, first of all, before we go on again? Because I know you do a lot more other things as well with what you do, not just with horses, but with other things. But where would people find you if they did want to find out more about the non-verbal sort of, communication process? Yeah,
well, the beauty of my name, Jude Jennison, is I'm easy to find on Google. So if you Google me, you'll find my website, you'll find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm on all the usual social media channels. Yeah.
So just moving on from that then, we've talked about horses, and the animal sort of process, and the way animals and horses can sort of not only adapt to a person, a human sort of behavioural, outcomes or personality, should I say, if they're coming in to see you. But there's something else that you are quite interested in, Jude, I do believe, and that is more of a technology base. But how does technology fit in with what you do now?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I started my career working for IBM, and I worked there for 17 years, and I was a technophobe. And it was easy to be a technophobe in an IT company because everyone around me was great at IT. So what I did was I developed my career managing and leading people and teams to do things that I couldn't do. And so I feel like the idea of a tech product is about coming full circle, because I'm always interested in where the market is going. And obviously during COVID, I couldn't work with the horses. So I did some online masterclasses. I've written 3 books. And one of the things that people kept saying to me was, when I tell stories about the horses, it gives them insights into their own behaviour and how they're interacting with other people. And so I had this idea to develop this app which brings together stories, which is the ancient art form, isn't it?
Yep.
Of
I love
storytelling that brings things alive. So short stories with some coaching questions that I'm putting together into a tech product so that people can have effectively a critical friend in the palm of their hand of what do I do with this difficult person? And that's the question I get asked the most,
Right.
of that difficult person in the team. And we've all had them and probably all have them. And yet nobody gets out of bed wanting to be difficult. It's not that people are difficult, it's the relationship that's difficult. And so the idea with the app is to tell stories to get people to think about, well, what am I doing and how am I interacting with this person? Because what we can't do is change somebody else's behaviour, but we can change our own. And when we change our own behaviour, we change the relationship. And therefore we change the other person's behaviour.
Right.
So the idea with the app is to get people to really get some insights into, well, how am I showing up? What assumptions am I making? Where am I holding my boundaries or not? How well am I listening? Am I being curious? Am I being abrasive? Am I being frustrated? Am I letting my emotions get in the way? And really starting to think about, well, how do I approach this situation differently? So the idea is that will become a product that my clients can use, so that once they've worked with me, that will be something that they can have as value add forever, and they can roll that out to the whole organisation. Whereas typically the teams that come and work with me are the senior teams, the exec teams, the talent development teams. So I realised that not everyone can experience working with the horses, but everyone could listen to stories and get new insights into behaviour.
So just going through that, and now you've just described the story process, and I'm thinking of it, if it was somebody sitting there and they're trying to work out, what they've said, why they've said it, and all that sort of thing, is it almost like somebody sharing like a journal? Is it that sort of way of coming across, when someone's writing a diary or writing points down in a journal to express their day or even their business and what they want to do on the next day and their achievements and their goals? Is it something similar to that kind of thing or different?
No, it's different. So I share stories that are either the horses' stories. So the horses all have their own story. So Tiffin, an ex-race horse, was beaten, gets really anxious around people who are anxious because he thinks he's going to get a beating. So his biggest issue is learning to trust.
Right.
So I often tell his story. And I tell my story of my relationship with the different horses. So I've owned 9 horses over the years, and each one, the relationship is vastly different, just as it is with people. And so I tell those stories. And then sometimes I tell client stories where clients have either said that it's okay to tell their story, or quite often many of the clients have had exactly the same story. So multiple people have the same experience, and therefore it feels okay to tell that story without sharing somebody's name, because it's a common story. And then what happens in the story is people put themselves in it,
Right.
either as the hero or as the victim.
Okay.
But either way, they start to think, oh, well, that's what's happening with the person I'm working with at work.
Yes.
And so they start to think about, oh, well, if that's what's causing it, then I can change in this way and that will get a different result.
Right. So it's almost having an insight into others' experiences, but being relatable to those experiences, and then trying, with the aim of adapting it within the organisation.
Yeah.
And like you've mentioned there, it's not always probably viable for everybody from an organisation to come down and work with the horses, but this is a completely new way in how you, I suppose, are also adding more value to what you do within your organisation to offer and reach out to more people.
Exactly, yeah. So it's suitable for clients who've worked with the horses, but it's also suitable for people who haven't, because ultimately it's just stories.
Yeah.
And everybody loves a story, right?
Everybody loves a story.
And the other add-on to it is, once I've told the story, I then ask 5 or 6 coaching questions so that it helps people really start to think about, oh yes, what does that mean for me, and how am I doing that, and how's the other person I'm in relationship with, how are they showing up, and where's the relationship not working and why. And so one of the key things that I like to do with my clients is always ask them questions so that they learn to think for themselves, because I'm not always going to be around. And so when I'm not around, they learn to actually coach themselves in the absence of having somebody. And of course, the beauty of the app is it is a critical friend in the palm of your hand, and you can go away and have 5 minutes, listen to a story, answer some questions, and then get some new insights.
And when is this critical friend in the palm of your hand going to be ready, roughly, do you envisage?
It's the first 30 stories have been recorded and are being uploaded into the tech at the moment. So the first beta version of it will be available within the next couple of months.
Wow.
The plan is to trial it on a few clients and get some feedback, and it will be an iterative process, because that's how I understand tech products to be, that they're iterative, and based on the feedback we'll change it and adapt it and launch it.
And keep evolving, no doubt, as well. Jude Jennison, thank you so much for joining me here in the studio on Business Spotlight. That's Jude Jennison, founder of Leaders by Nature, here in the Cross Rhythm studio in partnership with Baba Baboon.
Business Spotlight, shining a light on our local business community. Brought to you by Cross Rhythms and Baba Baboon.